You're listening to Ecosysteming, the podcast redefining economic development through the lens of equitable entrepreneurship. Join NC Idea as we engage with entrepreneurs and experts who are challenging the status quo and driving lasting change.
Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Ecosysteming podcast. I'm your host, Tom Rue, and I am over the moon happy to be with my guest today. He is the founder and CEO of Scale Social AI. Of course, I'm speaking with Runbin. Runbin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I have to show you that I do homework. So let me take a crack at describing what Scale Social is. It's a platform for capturing and transforming user-generated content. And boys and girls out there, the cool people say UGC, but doing so in an authentic way. So ostensibly, you take those videos that we all seem like obsessed or compelled to share with the world how much we love this sub sandwich we just got. Mm-hmm. And so that is like generated for free, right? User generated, but you're helping channel marketers and originally restaurants, as I understand it, like capture that content. So content they didn't produce, but like their happy customers produce.
It's out there.
And you are helping them monetize that and make it content that converts because of the authenticity of it.
Exactly.
Did I get the essence of it?
Yes. Spot on.
Well, okay, don't let me off the hook that easy. Why don't you go just another one step deeper in explaining, what the company does, including, well, now I'm stealing your thunder, I guess, because you've recently made a leap out of just retail restaurant and you're in biopharma now, but
biotech, yes.
Let's let them worry. Let the listeners worry or be distracted with that for a second while you bring us up to speed.
Yeah, so I think that was great. I guess I could use an analogy, which is, for folks out there, if you're familiar with Stripe, it's a payment processing company.
Yep.
Stripe has a ton of APIs, so technical infrastructure to process payment. So they're in the business of processing money. Similarly, we built Scale Social to be the infrastructure processing layer for authentic content. So we're in the business of collecting these really genuine moments from real people, and we're making it reusable for marketing collaterals, short form videos. These can be branded for every single brand that we work with. And we're also in the business of distributing that content to the right channels.
Help me understand, how are you doing that? I mean, do you have like web crawlers going out on Facebook and Instagram, and like you're just searching on your client's branded name to find that out? Is that, it's got to be more complicated than that, yes?
It's actually quite simple, but we do it in a very different way. So when we partner with a brand, we would set up a capture point. So think about it like a branded web page.
Okay.
So let me use an example. Let's say you are with your family at Disney theme park. You're having a great time. Disney could practically prompt you through their mobile app to capture those moments or to upload those moments directly to their mobile app. And in return, you can get a fast pass at your next ride. Right. So it becomes a very experiential kind of thing for consumers. So now that is sort of powered by the technology that we would embed into that app. So because we're on the background, the embedded layer, what that means though is we can also work with a restaurant. We can turn that capture point into a QR code, right? So if you're a diner, you walk in, you can scan the QR code and open up that experience.
But that capture point, that's on the client's affinity application, right? So you're not harvesting out in the wild, are you?
We're not.
Okay.
And that's the critical point, is that because we control the capture point, we're able to do two things very differently. One, we have an AI director that is giving visual cues and guidance to the consumer on what kind of content.
You're helping them make it super smoking hot.
Yes.
Oh, very clever.
And because we know what kind of content performs well in that specific vertical or maybe for adjacent brands,
Right.
we can be in a position to guide the creation of that content.
Do you help the clients build kind of customer affinity with their capture point, with their capture portal? Or do you like just have to trust? And I only ask that because believe it or not, and I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say I suspect I'm preaching to the choir. Don't let me lead the witness. But having worked with some large Fortune 500 companies in my entrepreneurial past, they're not always as good at this marketing stuff as they should be, or as you think, or you would assume that they are,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I would be a little bit nervous that the effectiveness that they would see using your platform would be limited by their own ability or limitations in getting user adoption
Hmm.
on their capture portal.
And to that end, because we are powering up those experiences, we're lending our clients
Okay.
that capability. Yes, it's highly gamified. And so I guess by nature, we're working with one of the largest, if not the largest, animal health companies in the world. And so imagine in that scenario, we're engaging or helping them engage with pet owners who've put their dogs through the therapies. These are life changing therapies for their
Right.
dog, for their best friends. And so customers are more than willing to give that content in the hope that this helps other pet owners.
Yeah.
So it's very, very powerful and moving. And I've personally reviewed every single one of those videos coming, and they're really good.
Every little brain dripping you're letting out right now just affirms how smart we were to give you grants. And I'm going to say 2 grants because I think if my records are correct, you got micro in 2024,
Mhm.
and that was that was the year you started, yes?
Yes. So
Okay.
that was in November,
And then you just parlayed that into the seed grant, the
hmm
$50,000 grant in 2025. So
June.
last year.
Hmm.
Um, that's, by the way, we're thrilled. Like for our micro, that is our biggest hope for people that win micro. We want them to proceed and, evolve, take the first grant, do the things you think you need to, pivot as you need to, learn, be loved on by the ecosystem, right?
Hmm.
That's why we use language like you're part of the family now.
Hmm.
Hopefully we made you feel like part of the family.
Absolutely.
Um, and the fact that you did that progression, and as much as I would love to make this all about us, it wasn't just us. You have been very good. And candidly, I'd say to people out there watching, especially the founders out there watching, this person is a great example of how to extract value from an ecosystem. Can you share a little bit like what other programs in the ecosystem, partners maybe that, helped you along the way as well?
Absolutely. Actually, this will touch upon most of the partners in this ecosystem. So we were a part of American Underground's Fidelity Accelerator. So shout out to Fidelity team. Shout out to American Underground. Um, it's been a phenomenal experience going through the acceleration process. And just around the time, that's when we got accepted into the micro grant. So it's extremely complementary from that perspective because the nature of our business, we're somewhat unique in the sense that we bootstrapped the business to begin with. And so every dollar that we spent, we were extremely conscious of where is it really taking us.
Out of
We
necessity.
did not go and say, hey, I have an idea and let's go raise money.
Right.
And so because of that, the micro and the C grant actually made an incredibly outsized impact on the progression and the growth of the company.
Was it just the money or, some would say, and I guess I am trying to put words in your mouth here a little bit. Some would say that winning the grants is also a market signal.
Hmm.
So, as you can imagine, we give away free money. It's popular. And and it's a competition, as you know, and it's not an easy competition. So the fact that you prevailed in a very competitive field, um, especially for those that go on to raise private
Hmm.
equity, right? We know for a fact that, the funders here and beyond will look to little kind of proof points, and winning
Exactly.
seed and micro are one of those proof points. Did that help you in any way or
Tremendously. And in fact, if I remember correctly, we closed our pre-seed November of last year.
okay?
So in rapid succession, I think those proving points were critical. And in two, especially through the seed process, that actually got us to know and sort of meet a lot of the people who are intrinsically a part of this ecosystem. I think we had a core review team of 40, 50 people,
Oh yeah.
and they're the who's who within this community. It's incredible.
We are blessed, frankly, to have, because they're all volunteers. That's why I always like to say that, the next chance I get, I'll double their pay because I'm fairly certain 2x of zero, still zero. Um, but the nice thing is, I think that there's this esprit de corps, in the ecosystem, and as we call it,
Yes.
we reference it as this thing of ours, and we don't mean ours as in NC Ideas. We mean it
Hmm.
as collectively, the royal we, right? Like
Hmm.
we're all in this together, and to the extent that they contribute and help. I think for the funds, it's a little bit of like, hey, I'm going to get a sneak peek at something we hope to be possibly looking at in 6 to 12 months from
Hmm.
now. For some of our ecosystem partners, it's very common now to share clients,
Hmm.
right? That you could be going through, maybe Grow at CED,
Hmm.
or you went through Rap at Riot, right?
Yep, we
You
went through both.
you went through both, but you really did take advantage of the ecosystem.
Yes.
Did I mention, folks, you should emulate this behavior because this is a lot of goodness. And again, remind me, how much did you pay for all that?
Uh,
I think it's zero.
yeah.
Okay, good. I know I'm being silly, and I don't want to do that to make a point, but you know, when when we recently announced the Tweener
Hmm.
transaction, the strategic partnership with what was formerly the Triangle Tweener Fund, now the North Carolina Tweener Fund, going statewide. There was a lot of reaction in the market, as you might imagine. Your reaction, in particular, warmed our hearts
Oh,
because it was authentic.
I
You
meant it.
you know something about authenticity, right? I think the post started with something like, "This one feels personal to me."
Yes.
Could you elaborate why? Why did it feel personal to you?
So before North Carolina, and this gets into some of the backstory, I went to Duke for undergraduate, and then after graduation, I left
Right?
DC, New York, San Francisco, Hong Kong,
Oh, I
and
missed San Francisco. I had Memphis though on my bingo card.
Memphis is there too.
Yeah.
That was my
Okay.
first company. And so we got to see what those ecosystems look like firsthand. We lived there. We were part of the tech ecosystem. I was in tech. I think North Carolina felt very different because there's a very strong sense of community and a very strong sense of paying it forward. We felt that, and that was a very personal thing. It also reinforces that it was such a good idea to move back here to raise our family. And so a lot of the guiding principles, and this gets into why we wanted to be much more deeply embedded as part of this ecosystem, is we have a 2.5-year-old son.
Great
And
age.
I know he's amazing. And to that point, when I think about, well, he's going to grow up here, what would I want this place to look like when he's of age? And that sort of became the guiding principle and sort of the motivation behind all of that.
Yeah, I get it. We're similar. I think we have some similarities in the background that, having lived in a bunch of different places. I'm first gen.
Mm.
I worked at the Coffin Foundation before I came here, traveled the world and got to see ecosystems. Did a lot of work here, ecosystems domestically in the US. My sister still lives in Menlo Park.
Mm.
I go to the Bay Area probably, quarterly. And there's good, strong ecosystems that play to their strengths and they have their brands and their reputation is true. But like you, I'm not here by accident either,
Mm.
right? Because let me ask you this,
Yeah.
as you're not a native son of the South, neither am I. Do you think it's a Southern thing? Is it a culture thing? Like this niceness, this willingness to share and be helpful? It's not right because like
Yeah.
San Francisco and New York, like, okay, cool, the big boys are there and they write the big checks. But like, oh, me help you? I'll tell you what, show me what you got and you know,
It's a value exchange.
it's transactional, right? Everything's transactional. Like I'll show you mine maybe after I see yours, right? That's not the way it is here.
Yeah.
And I mean, has that been your experience? Did I distill the kind of the essence of what you think this ecosystem is?
I think it's the culture. There's a big part of that. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and so I've always been in the South. And after been to other places, it's like, well, where do I identify myself the most? I think in a world where everyone's been asked to move faster, go faster, do bigger things, and with less in place, the groundedness of this area actually came through more. The way I think about it is there's a lot more noise now in the world,
Oh, yeah.
and it's harder to find what grounds you and roots you. And I'd rather be in a place where we can build a solid, durable company that can withstand the worst of times than chasing after another shiny object. So yes, we're an AI company, but what defines how we operate? We identify very much to this area.
Well, I'm going to double click on that. We are an AI company because, as you can imagine, in our grant cycles, right,
Mhm.
we have seen the influence of AI come in.
Yes.
And we're seeing both sides of the coin. It's not just all unicorns and rainbows,
Mhm.
right? Um, it's becoming a bit problematic because, we're seeing now applications that what's the right word to use? Insincere, right?
AI
Or
slop.
half baked,
Mhm.
right? Like, oh, I don't. If you're not serious about an idea to pursue,
Mhm.
you're not going to spend 10 hours in filling out the application,
That's right.
right? But now, if you have this tool that comes around that says, hey, AI, let me just feed these prompts in
Mhm.
and just vomit out some answers, right? And then I'll slap that in doc. I'll spend 31 whole minutes on it and see if I can get 10 grand of free money. It's a problem.
Mhm.
And I even opined about this in one of our email newsletters where I said, some people are using AI as a superpower,
Mhm.
which it legitimately can be.
Exactly.
Others are using it as a parlor trick to skip school.
Mhm.
And in that use of AI, right, it's actually a disservice to humanity. It's not making us better.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of cases with early childhood development now we're seeing that there could be cognitive challenges to that.
Mhm.
Um, you're using it as a superpower,
Mhm.
right? As are the successful entrepreneurs that are just doing kind of paradigm changing applications of AI. You know, are you concerned? Are you still bullet? I mean, I'm expecting again and putting words in your mouth, but like AI is in the name of the company. So I'm
Mhm.
assuming you're, bullish about AI, but are there parts of it that like you have concern over?
We just this morning, actually, we had a leadership conversation around the next frontier. Because we use AI every day, we see what it's really good at and where it falls short. And when we started building Scale Social, well, initially it was a small idea. It's we just want to collect really authentic content and make it go everywhere. We didn't realize that it was going to become such a big deal with all the AI slop that is literally flooding the market, right? And so suddenly we're realizing we're in a very unique position where we sort of want to champion authenticity above everything else because that's in our DNA.
With the volume of noise going up, authenticity.
Exactly. And so how do we know if something's real or not? I think that line's getting blurred more and more. And so, yes, we are very bullish on AI, but we're designing our technology in a very thoughtful manner, whereby we will never fabricate authenticity. Because the moment we cross that line, then trust is lost instantly. And so, I guess the real question here is in a world where there's so much out there, how do you build and reinforce trust and keep that trust? And that's what our brands and clients really care about.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, even with AI, right, we're still humans
Yes.
and trust has to be built, it has to be earned. And it's so just weirdly coincidental. I recorded a podcast earlier today. I was actually the guest on somebody else's podcast, and they were asking me to opine on the future of a program we developed together when we worked at the Kauffman Foundation. And do I think it'll be around for the next 20 years? And I said, it'll come down to whether or not trust can be kept,
Hmm.
right? I mean, That program, not unlike our Seed and Micro, relies on the goodwill of, strangers and volunteers and people to kind of sustain the brand promise to the community it serves. It's a big ecosystem tool. It's the 1 Million Cups program.
Ah,
That was one of the programs in my portfolio when I worked at the Kauffman Foundation. But I mean, the foundation's got an obligation to keep that trust.
hmm
And it is way harder to build it than it is to lose it.
hmm exactly.
You can break something with a fraction of the effort that it takes to build it.
And I think from a talent perspective, it places heavier emphasis on judgment, right? So, assuming, and we use AI for a lot of execution level tasks, but that doesn't mean we remove the humans behind it or the humans who are supervising it. And that's critical, right? Because at the end of the day, who's calling the shot on what is good?
Right.
And one thing that I hesitate and more cautious of is when folks, anyone really using AI, start deferring judgment
Right.
to what comes out. So you're not proofreading. This happens a lot on LinkedIn.
What?
Oh, surprise. I think there's a general sense of let's do the easy thing and the quick thing, but
Instead of the right thing, that's harder.
instead of the right thing. Exactly.
Have you had to do that so far in Scale Social's lifespan?
I think we've made it into a big part of our culture whereby whoever is accountable for that one thing, that person is accountable. Like you can't have an excuse and say, oh, oops.
Right. Right.
I missed it because my AI told me so.
Well, yeah, blaming the AI was fashionable. It was in vogue for a minute, but like I think people go, nah, nah, nah,
Yeah,
nah,
you're
nah.
still on the hook.
That's kind of like blaming the keyboard on your computer, right? That you put some slop out there. I gotta tell you, I have an experience again going back years, and sorry to keep playing the old man card here, but we had a client in one of my startups, and this was at a time where, I mean, every dollar was sacred, and I needed money so badly. But we were a trusted partner, vendor partner to this very large retailer, and there was this world changing event,
Hmm,
a world changing event that changed the world forever. And that was the 9/11 attacks.
hmm,
And for the viewers and listeners that are old enough to remember, um, we all got paranoid and we were all afraid that this was the beginning of a trend. And people were stockpiling as if it was like a snowstorm coming. And we were buying rolls of, plastic visqueen and masks and
hmm,
tape and all kinds of things. And this client of mine, this huge Fortune 500 client, they sold a lot of these materials.
hmm,
And I get called into this meeting with these executives and they say, hey, we need you to put together a marketing package. We're going to call them like terrorist prep packs or so, if a roll of masking tape is $2 and a roll of visqueen's $20 and the N95 masks are $10, like we can package them together, charge 2x,
hmm.
right? And really use this moment, exploit this moment to make a quick buck.
Opportunistic.
And I'm sitting in this meeting, an enviable meeting that I would have killed to have,
Hmm,
with any of our clients. And I'm sitting there, it's like that proverbial, devil's on one shoulder, angels on the other shoulder. And you're like,
hmm,
uh, he's saying, take the job. This one's saying, well, this one actually won out. And what this one said was, if you do this, you're going to destroy 100-year-old brand.
yes.
And the only way I'll take this job is if you give me a waiver on any claims,
Hmm,
on any blowback, because I'm fairly certain if you pursue this marketing campaign, you're going to be a Harvard case study, Harvard Review, Business Review case study on how you destroy 100-year-old brand.
yes.
And there were still some VPs in that room going, yeah, 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 okay, fine. We'll give you your disclaimer. And then finally, there was one elderly exec in there that said, gentlemen, and yeah, they were all gentlemen. They were not a very diverse company. Gentlemen, we just told a vendor he's got a blank check and he'll only take the job, with some pretty odious waivers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should take that as a signal to slow down,
Yes.
right? And I think back now with AI, it feels like that kind of angel devil
Mm-hmm.
situation could be happening on the daily.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Angels winning out as much as I don't think their batting average is as good as from what I can see. It's
Mm.
not as good as it should be.
On the market. Yeah.
So speaking of that, let me bring it back to what you do. I'm assuming in your client's uh, portal, like where they can extract the user generated content.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure in some fine print click wrap MSA agreement,
Mm.
the person posting gives the rights to the company to reuse the content.
No.
No. Okay. So correct my assumption, if you would please, because where I'm going with the question is, have you had user or client blowback? Right.
So no. And being a company that cares a lot more about how we get rights.
Right.
So when a user makes the upload, we actually get full rights to the content. That's huge. It's actually
So
much
they
more.
do acknowledge at some point if they're uploading that content, they're giving you the rights to the
Oh,
content.
they know front and center. And
Got
here's
it.
the difference is that in the earliest days, we had a link, terms and conditions and whatever, and it's
Right.
automatically opted in.
Mm,
We collaborated with Duke University, Vivek specifically
yeah.
from the Masters of Engineering and Design program. So shout out to Vivek. He had an entire classroom of the brightest Duke students working with us on a bunch of research. And one of them was about privacy and data ownership. And this may not surprise you, but turns out if we are extremely transparent and make it obvious to every one of the customers that we encounter and have a digital interface with, and tell them, hey, by the way, you're doing this because you love the brand. And by doing this, you're assigning full rights to us. It's not hidden, it is right in front of them. People actually feel much more comfortable and they're trusting us to safeguard their privacy. They're trusting us to not abuse and misuse the content.
Yet another reason why founders, you need to emulate what's happening here. This is a master class. You might have just tuned in for a simple podcast, but you're getting a master class. That's brilliant. Because again, my own experience, a lot in the kind of retail space, you're giving them a reason to be more like energized in the club,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm special. And I'm so special, I'm going to affirm that
Mm-hmm.
overtly. So thank you for correcting my assumption and apologies. I feel like I need to apologize that I even assumed you would do something as seedy as the common practice.
Well, that was the easy thing to do.
Well, it's the right thing to do,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
So it's wonderful when those two can align.
Yes.
So you mentioned the group of students and Vivek and what's going on at Duke. Among your very cool titles, and when we were just pre-chatting before the cameras were rolling, I was just talking how awesome you have Chief Dumpling Dealer on your title sheet there. But I thought we'd also talk, if you want to, you're an advisor to this thing called the Seed List.
Mm-hmm.
And since this is the ecosysteming podcast where we talk about all things ecosystem in this thing of ours, you want to talk a little bit about the list?
Yeah, I care deeply about what we were working on there. The inspiration came from a hike. So I used to organize these hikes every weekend, and I would have a bunch of students show up. And it's a great way to be out there active, getting a hike in. But throughout the hikes, I started getting a sense of uneasiness, especially with the immigration policies are shifting around, especially international students.
Oh, yeah.
And this notion of, oh gosh, what's going to happen? And the broader sentiment of we shouldn't be here. They don't want us here.
Right.
And so that kind of just stuck. And of course, being someone who likes to solve problems, I started sort of scheming up some kind of a internship program that would be beneficial if it's directly embedded within this ecosystem. But I didn't know what to start. The other side of it is I again went back to what would Felix, my son, like to see 16 years from now. And I think he will very much appreciate having a program like that here.
You think he's going to follow in his dad's footsteps? Go
I don't know.
Duke, Carolina, State.
He'll decide.
Alrighty then. Sorry, I didn't mean to get you off track.
But by coincidence, I was hanging out at the American Underground, and by chance, Amanda Stockwell, she's a professor at Duke, stopped by, and we started catching up. And we literally just went for a coffee. And she's like, "Oh, I heard that you're working on this thing called Scale Social." I'm like, "Well, I've been thinking about this other thing." And I described the concept to her. It's like, what if we can start some kind of a matching program? So we're curating the best talents from this area. These are all students. The bigger question is, how do we retain talent here so they don't go to San Francisco or go to New York? Nothing against those cities, by the way.
Sure. But insert disclaimer here. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, how do we keep the best, the brightest, the most driven people in this community? Because that's what's going to make a difference many years from now. That's the first question. The second question is, how do we cultivate a new generation of talent that is AI native? So we embrace the tools out there. They're moving at AI native speed.
Right.
What that means practically, and we haven't announced this yet, but we might end up just hiring one of the students that we worked with.
At Scale Social.
At Scale Social. And the reason is because we're seeing this thesis play out in real time, whereby a student who's equipped with the right skill sets, they can take an idea, they can design it with AI tools, they can write up all the requirements, and they can build it. That entire life cycle belongs to one person. No longer do you need 3 different roles for it.
Oh, you're
That's
preaching to
full
the choir.
ownership.
Yeah, I mean, one of my companies was an agency. I used to have one of my children, my middle child. She graduated from the J school at Mizzou, and that only like within the last 7-8 years. She came out with a full set of skills that I used to have 5 employees for.
Yeah.
And that to me was like, wow, what's happening? This is right before the AI bubble was coming up. So yeah, I get that. And it's going to mean prepping them to think differently and operate, differently. But I love the fact that you're doing this, especially for the sake of the immigrant students that are here. My mother, father, and brother are naturalized citizens. I was an anchor baby. My sister and I are the only 2 in our family that were actually born here. And I've also had the good fortune of working at an institution that spent a ton of money building up irrefutable data on the positive economic impact of immigrants to this nation.
Yes.
It is without question, right? I mean, you can cherry pick for partisan reasons and for nefarious purposes, anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to have an honest debate informed by data, the debate's over before it starts. Right? We're seeing that right now. As a matter of fact, the single fastest growing segment of entrepreneurship right now is Hispanic in this nation. And just like for that to be gone, again, for political reasons, I mean, you want to talk about self-inflicted wounds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just dumb because
Yeah.
it's indefensible.
Well,
and it's intellectually dishonest.
This gets into a little bit more of the political side, but
my guests are always welcome to go as political as they want.
But honestly, this is probably the best thing that's happened to China.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Hands down.
And not just China. So my background, my parents are from Germany. I have still family, in Europe. And I think one of my cousins sent me an ad, a promo. I think it was Austria. Austria is overtly targeting faculty in the U.S. saying, "Hey, has your funding been cut? Are you feeling unwelcome in the United States? Come to beautiful Austria. We will welcome you. We will give you full, endowed chairs and blah, blah, blah,
Yes.
blah, blah." I mean, it's a boon.
So similarly, in China, you get a full residence house granted by the government, and you get like maids, you get like your entire life taken care for
Yeah.
if you were to go back.
Yeah. I believe it. And I don't know you know, I get, we are still very committed to our values
Yeah.
and equity first. And, people give us a lot of credit for, quote, having the courage to do that. I will say, at the risk of taking a little bit away from ourselves, is it's a little easier for us because we don't get funded by the feds
Mm.
and nobody at the state level is funding us right now. So I'm not risking what others are. But that does give us a sense of obligation to use our privileged status to still be a voice
Hmm.
for the voiceless right now.
Thank you.
We have to, right? Because I do believe this trends, and that's a very mild way to characterize what we are in right now, considering multiple global wars and things like that. It's very much it's almost a rude understatement, but trends do change, or said a little more politely, like this too shall pass,
Yes.
right? And my warning has been to partners that have hunkered down and pulled back and self-edited, and again, understandably out of self-preservation modes. It's understandable. I'm not like casting aspersions that they are doing that.
Mm.
But to the extent they resist that now, when this does pass, you can pick up right where you left off.
Hmm.
If you allow yourself to pull back, and when this passes, you're going to be spending years
Hmm.
playing catch up. And so I'm just doing what we can for as many people that we serve to say, let's be ready when this passes so that we don't have to go back and run, a full marathon before we get back to where we were before this period in time.
That's right.
And I think the best tool for that we have has been entrepreneurship and building this thing of ours to serve this community, which serves humanity more broadly. So I've gotta land the plane. My producer very subtly held up the, wrap it up card as I paused to give him a dirty look. Cause I think for next time we're gonna have to do it again, and like we'll have beers
That
and
sounds amazing.
then we'll just keep it going forever. Um, but so let me I can't let you go without giving you the final word advice. Um, Whether you know it or not, you started before the cameras were rolling, paying us all kinds of compliments. I'm going to turn that around on you and pay those compliments to you. You are a prototype of a great entrepreneur,
Thank
and everything that entails. Yes, you have benefited from the ecosystem, but you give back to the ecosystem. And when you're wildly successful, I'm sure you'll find some way to maybe pay it back forward to those that are following. But let's start
So
with your
on
advice.
record,
Oh, on record.
that
Ooh,
would be a commitment.
okay. You heard it here, folks. And I'm not going to press further. I appreciate that. It's a very sweet gesture of you. But more real, seriously, what would be your advice? Think about where you were, a year before launching Scale Social.
Hmm.
What would have been helpful for you to hear from somebody that is where you are now?
I think I've been very fortunate to have been in an environment where responsibility kind of gets placed on you almost naturally. And when that happens, you kind of very quickly realize what's the right thing to do and what's the easy and convenient things to do. And so, if I could give any advice to future entrepreneurs, um, sometimes the easy thing may seem convenient at times, but remember you have many years to go. And so, when times are tough, generally the character gets tested the most. And I think let that be the guiding principle behind the decisions.
Very cool. I like to say that the two things that prepared me most for being an entrepreneur were my time in the Air Force,
Mm.
because you just get great classic leadership training and mission focus, execution. But also the other biggest thing was being a parent.
Yes.
And as I hear, you say Felix is your son's
Yes.
name? As I hear, 2.5, what hopes you already have for him when he's 18, um, I think you're going to be having a similar epiphany while you are building your company and raising your son.
Yes.
Being a good parent, a lot of those lessons translate very well. And I think you're going to apply that to building Scale Social into something that's going to be a unicorn for the region and an inspiration for others. And I want to be among the first to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing your time and talent with us today. So with that, viewers, listeners of the Ecosysteming podcast, I want to thank my guest, Runbin Dong. I mean, come on, right? I almost wanted you to applaud, but I just realized that we're on a podcast. So clap at your home. But as always, we want to hear from you. So if you have suggestions on other guests or topics, just let us know. Contact information everywhere you get your podcast. Thank you.
Stay connected with NC Idea on LinkedIn and Facebook. Subscribe to our newsletter for all the latest. Catch new episodes of Ecosysteming every other Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in and being a part of this thing of ours.